Okay, I'm going to take a couple minutes here, everybody, and go through something that is so often missed with most runners, but can have the biggest impact on you running stronger, faster, and staying injury-free at the same time. Okay, we can get caught up in, spending a ton of money on shoes and all different types of gear and fancy watches and everything else. But in my experience with my running and with a lot of the runners that I coach, something that I've seen the most improvement of is when people have taken time to improve their form. And the good thing about this is you don't have to overcomplicate it. It's not something that takes a lot of time. And I can speak for myself that when I first started to concentrate on form, I did a few of the exercises that were recommended to me by my coach many years ago. And I was out for a run in High Park in Toronto, and right away I got going, and it's like, oh wow, I've got it. And that was in the first time that I ran. So as I said, the key is to make you run injury free, to make it feel easier, to make it more fun, less stiffness, more efficiency, everything else. So I'm going to go over a few things. Probably take me about maybe 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And of course, if you ever want to get in touch with me, Mike at positiveedge.ca, and we can talk about it. Any questions that you have, after you've tried some of these things out or whatever. So hopefully I won't miss anything, but I want to go through this sort of slowly and methodically so you have a full understanding of what I'm talking about. So, okay, so a few of the simpler things that can really make a big difference in any type of a run or a race or whatever, especially over the long term. Okay, so number one is your arm swing. Okay, you see a lot of people running and they're like this or they're like this. Keep your elbows in, and your arm swing, your hands should be relaxed because you don't want to use any extra energy tightening up those hands. Your fist pump, or whatever you want to call it, shouldn't come past the middle point of your body. Okay, so it shouldn't come past that midline. What that will do is it will allow you to cut through any type of wind resistance, any type of resistance at all. So especially when it's windy out, that's something that will really help you a lot, but will also help you in any condition. So that's one thing. The next thing is think about your side to side and your up and down, and you want to minimize that as much as possible. Okay, so you can do that by consciously when you're running. You can also do that by strengthening your core a little bit, because then you're going to keep that more stable, and it's going to stop you from going too much side to side or up and down. There's going to be a little bit of that, there's no question, but the more you can minimize that, the more you're spending your time going forward, not this way or this way. Okay, so that's another little tidbit for you. Something else to think about when you're running. Think about somebody pulling a string from your chest and they're pulling it out. So I don't mean like you're running like this, but what that's going to do is it's going to pull your shoulders back, okay? And that kind of works into what we're going to go on with some other parts of the form. It's going to pull your shoulders back, and it's going to help your form overall, okay? So keep that in mind. You want to keep your head and everything aligned, so you don't want to make sure you're not like that, because the more you're bent over and everything like that, the more your form is going to suffer, and over the long period of time, it's going to have a negative effect on your running. Okay, so I'm going to go over a couple of other things. Hopefully, you can see me okay here. I'm side to side. Now, when you're running, okay, you want, number one, in order to be able to put these running form tips into effect, you've got to have pretty loose hips, okay? So you've got to make sure that those hip flexors and everything aren't too tight. And super important, because if they are, you're going to find yourself that you're running like this or like this, and that's no good. And when you're running like that, you're not able to have the proper form that you need that's going to help you out. So everything is nice and loose. When you're running, you want to be as much, almost like a plank as much as possible, okay? And when you want to get quicker, or you want to increase your lean, not increase your stride length, okay? I'll get into why in a second. But when you watch a little kid run that's just learning, okay, they're running like this, and their feet are, their feet are almost hitting up to their butt, and that's something to practice, is let yourself fall and that's when that foot should go forward, okay? Now, your foot strike. Now, I can't show you the falling forward in your foot strike when I'm stationary, when I'm falling forward, but I want to show you this quickly for what they should feel like. You want your foot strike to be as close to underneath your hip as possible, okay? You want your foot strike, when it hits the ground, you want it to be on the way back, okay? Anytime you're striding ahead of your hip, basically what that's causing, it's causing a braking force that's going through your ankle, through your knee, through your hip, probably up to your shoulders and maybe even into your neck. It's slowing you down, it's going to tighten things up in your quad. That's why when you see these really, really fast guys, their lean is like this, their body is like a plank, and their foot is hitting on the way back. So I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, like your 4-foot strike or where you should be striking, because that will eventually come naturally. But there's three little exercises that you can do to sort of learn this. And as I said at the start of the video, when I learned it, literally I practiced for maybe 10 minutes before I went out for my first run, and that was all I had to practice. Now I would suggest you maybe practice it maybe 2 or 3 times before, or whatever you need. You can do it before every run, and the more you do it, the more it's going to start to come easy. So the one thing you want to do is, let's pretend you're clearing mud off your shoes. So you're taking one foot, you're looking forward, you're taking one foot, and you're scuffing it on the ground, but it's hitting on the ground on the way back, okay? So you're doing that. What that's going to do is it's going to put something up here, and it's going to make you start to get used to that foot hitting on the way back. So maybe do that 30 or 40 times before your next run, okay? So again, hitting right underneath, do it with the other foot, okay? So that's number one, because that's the feeling you need. You need the feeling of that foot hitting on the way back, okay? So it's like a wheel. Think of it like a wheel, okay? The other thing you want to do to get used to having a proper lean and how that lean can help your running, the stronger your core, the better. But what you want to do is just stand stationary and allow yourself to lean, and when that foot hits the ground, you're scuffing it and you're pulling it back, okay? So what that's going to do is you're going to start to notice that it's not the quads that are working, it's more so the hamstrings, okay? So it's when we go back to this one, it's like you're doing a hamstring curl almost. Okay? So again, we're going to go back, going to go to this real quick. Practice falling forward. Okay? Practice falling forward, and that's when that foot goes forward. Practice doing this. Foot's hitting on the way back. And then practice this. You're leaning, okay? Scuffing those feet on the way back. And if you just practice those 3 things, your running's going to take a big upward, whatever the word is that I'm looking for. It's going to improve like crazy, okay? Now all of a sudden I'm getting a little bit tired, so that's a that's a good thing. Again, if there's anything else that I can help you with, a lot other things go into running form. How you should run uphill. You know what? Why not? Let's go over it quickly. A couple of the main things that people make mistakes with is running uphill and running downhill. And what they do is they do the 2 opposite things. And it doesn't matter if you're racing or if you're out for a run on a Sunday or you're out with your friends or whatever. Here's what happens. Usually, people are running downhill, and because they don't want to feel like they're going too fast, they're stopping themselves. Okay, so they're kind of braking themselves as they're running down the hill, and then what you're doing is you're putting a ton of pressure on your quads, and that's why, you know, when you see people, or you hear about people that run the Boston Marathon, they say my quads were done. It's because the first 8 or 9K are all downhill. So what you want to do when you're running downhill is you want to let yourself go. So allow yourself to go as fast as that gravity and everything is taking you, and you want to make sure that you're increasing your turnover and again, that those feet are hitting underneath your hips, and you're not stopping yourself. Okay, so don't even think about your pace when you're on hills. Think about your perceived exertion, and think about not having any type of a braking force on your body. Now, running uphill is kind of the exact opposite, where people think, okay, now I'm running uphill, but I've got to keep my quote-unquote pace. Then what happens is you end up blowing yourself up, and you're wondering why. So you need to think that you're going to get it back. So if you're running uphill, you're going to get it back when you're going downhill. So don't worry too much about your pace. And then a little exercise is almost like you're pumping your fists if you're going up a big hill, and that will actually help as well. So I hope this has helped a little bit. There's lots more. I coach a ton of runners, and this is probably my favorite part of it because I know the impact that it's had on them. I know the impact that it's had on me. Feel free to reach out, and everybody have a great